The average height of NFL quarterbacks has taken a drastic hit this weekend as Tua Tagovailoa returned to practice, and Bryce Young gets named the starter after Andy Dalton has a car accident.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of these stories coming out this week. It's weird, and we hope Andy Dalton and his family are doing well. But what a stroke of bad luck! Obviously, getting into an accident, but you hurt. The only thing that you hurt is your throwing thumb. Bryce Young back out there for the Panthers. It'll be interesting to see which version of him we see. Are we going to see this young, confident kid that we saw in college that was a shoo-in to be the number one pick, or are we going to see a guy who sort of found himself tucked into his own little clamshell there for a few weeks and almost like a calendar year for the Panthers?
Yeah, he did not pick the best week to get forced back into the starting lineup, I'll say. He's going to Denver, already a tough place to play, and then facing one of the best defenses in the NFL so far this season, and the defense that blitzes more than anyone else in the NFL. So he'll be under fire, but I agree. I'm a little cautiously optimistic. I just hope we see a different guy, right? I hope we see a guy who's playing a lot more loose, a lot more free, because if there's anything we saw from him early on this season before he got but he was just playing so tight. You know, he wasn't taking chances with the football, wasn't operating the offense. He just looked lost. I mean, we discussed it at the time, but
he looks like me when I'm on the tee box and there's water in front of me.
That's a great way to put it.
And I'm like, dude, don't hit that water. Don't hit that water. Mike gets up. He's just like, watch me hit this 3-iron, and absolutely nuts one right down the middle. Next thing you know, he's got a par, and I'm picking up after double bogey. I haven't even reached the green yet. So you got to play with the right mindset, right? You got to play with the mindset of, I'm here for a reason. I'm Bryce Young. I was drafted as the number one pick. Mm-hmm. I still have to show people that I can do this thing.
And we shall see if he does. Honestly, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think we can all agree that it's not going to be elite quarterback play anytime soon with him. But I think Tua is the more interesting one here, because as much as they have stunk, and we don't think this is a good team whatsoever, they are still ahead of the New York Jets in the AFC East. They are 2-4. Their season is not lost by any means. The defense hasn't been playing too bad. One of the better pass defenses in the NFL so far this season. So not all is doom and gloom in Miami. This season could get turned around. Now, it's obviously not 100% that he will play. He just has returned to practice. They're still ramping him up, seeing if he will be playing this Sunday. But obviously, with like concussion symptoms, if you're ready to practice, feels like something that you're probably ready to play with. But obviously, that's going to determine the next few days if you can. But going against Cardinals defense, that is one of the lesser defenses in the NFL, shall we say. I think Jonathan Gannon's a great DC. I think they bring a good game plan week in and week out, but we still saw Justin Herbert carve them up with some nobodies a week ago in terms of through the air. So a good team for him to return to, and another one that probably won't put much pressure on him when he does return. So what are our expectations?
350 yards last week for Justin Herbert with a bunch of receivers that aren't necessarily star-studded. Now you take your talents to South Beach. When you're this Cardinals defense, you're going to be playing against, it is in Miami, right? Yeah, it's in Miami. So you're playing against, I'm going to assume it's going to be Tua. I'm going to assume the involvement of Tyreek Hill is going to be plentiful. I'm sure the ball will be out of Tua's hand quick. I think Mike McDaniel will have a plan to do that, to get Tua back into a rhythm, getting rid of the football, taking no hits. That's really, at the end of the day, I think the last thing that Mike will say to Tua when he leaves the sideline for a last time before playing. Do not take any hits. You don't have to take hits. Get the ball into Tyreek's hand. Get the ball to Jalen. We've got some running backs you can get involved with this offense. And you know from years past that with Tua and Mike McDaniel, it's a lot of this quick processing, quick throws, and letting these receivers eat after the catch. I think that's where you're going to make a lot of hay. So look for Tyreek Hill to have another big day. I know these guys have been frustrated with their lack of offensive explosiveness.
Yeah, I think, though, this offense has had struggles even when Tua was in the lineup, right? Like, I don't think this is all of a sudden, like, you don't just score 70 points in 6 games with purely the talent, right? The talent's not that bad to be scoring with. I think Mike McDaniel himself has to go back to the drawing board with some of the stuff they've been doing offensively. And I don't think Tua is going to fix that, especially given what he went through, man. I mean, the fact that his career was in such jeopardy after that hit, and it was such a minor hit, I don't think he can just, we're talking about Bryce Young going out there and being able to just let it rip, play free, nothing to lose. There's a lot to lose for Tua at this point. I think you could see a guy playing very tight and not playing the quarterback position the way he did before, knowing that one hit, the one thing, when your first, second read is not always going to be there. Sometimes you're going to have to break the pocket. Sometimes you're going to have to extend plays. And will he be willing to? Will he be able to stand in there under pressure the way he has in the past? I don't know. I think that's a big question mark, because this really is kind of, I don't think anyone thinks that after another concussion, especially this soon after his last one, I don't think he'd play again.
Here's one thing you have to realize, and you know this from playing sports, and your old man's an ortho, right? So when you have an injury, like I had ankles, I had elbows, I had shoulders, I had a fractured vertebrae in my neck, you can feel those things, okay, when you're playing. Sometimes the ortho, the team docs will say, it can't get any worse. So it's a pain management thing. Like, I'm not sure exactly what Jaden Daniels is going through.
Risk of re-injury.
It's one of those things where if there's no risk of re-injury, it's pain tolerance, right? How much can you go out there and tolerate pain-wise? Like when I had my ankle, 80% of the game would feel good. Then I take on a bull rush and I try to sit into the ground and my ankle screams at me. Well, the head injury, the concussion, it's one of those things where you don't feel it. You don't feel it. And they tell you you're okay to play. So for Tua Tagovailoa, is he the type of guy that says, I don't feel it, I'm not even going to think about it? Or is it in the back of his mind every single time he touches the football? That's what remains to be seen. Which version of Tua we're going to see? Is he going to cut it loose, or is he going to be playing a little bit more timid? And I wouldn't blame him if he was to be playing timid. The guy has been kind of shell-shocked, so it'll be interesting to see.
All right, last thing to get to in first off the ball. Jameson Williams, suspended. We didn't get to this. This was a little bit earlier in the week for PESs. I think that's the politically correct term now. Performance-enhancing substances. Not performance-enhancing drugs is what the policy is now. 2 games, though.
Do we know which PES he was on?
It has not been reported anywhere. Because
there's a wide variety of things that you could be guilty.
Because it can be steroids, stimulants, growth hormones, and similar substances.
Yeah, I mean,
but usually it's 4 games, and this one's only 2.
Well, it could be very low something. It could be I took the wrong.
Could have been
thing.
Blue Chews.
You know, some of the I mean, 100%. Like I remember some of the old heads in the locker room when I got in the league. They were like, you got to be careful with the Viagras. And I'm like, I don't take Viagra. And they're like, oh, really? That's crazy.
Sure you don't.
Well, those guys would get in trouble if they got tested the day after from being on Viagra, because it's a stimulant. It falls under this PED, PES, also Adderall, Concerta, all those types of medications, which have become wildly popular in the general population, obviously for just getting stuff done around the house. Even, people are taking this stuff now. So if you're an NFL player, you have to be really careful about that. Jameson Williams obviously didn't understand what he was putting in his body. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's why they gave him 2 games instead of 4, but a huge loss for this football team. I'm
not sure you have to be careful about it, just as like a risk reward. If you are on your rookie contract compared to like your second contract, missing, say you're like a 3rd rounder. So your rookie contract, you miss 6 games, you're down, say $30,000. But what you could gain from the performance enhancing substances on your second contract.
Actually taking it. So like what I'm saying is it could have been a mishap. He could have gone out to the nightclub or whatever. Somebody could have put something in his drink. Next thing you know, you're testing positive for the random drug test that happens the next week.
Oops, what Mike's saying is
the risk reward there in the rookie contract for a non-first round guy could end up being very lucrative. You know, and you see some guys that end up getting in trouble later in their contract, and that's when people are like, "Hey, you're on the stuff." But if you can sneak by in that first deal, I'm not condoning this, but it's a savvy way to go about doing it.
It's why so many. It's like a common minor league thing. You take it in the minors to then get to the majors, because you get suspended in the minors. It's like whatever.
Yeah, nobody.
But now I have the base to be nasty in the pros. So I will say it is not going to probably impact them this week. They play the Tennessee Titans. They're at home. But they go to the road to the Green Bay Packers the week after that. Massive game with obviously massive NFC North implications. The Packers only 2 losses, Lions with 1 loss, Vikings with 1 loss. So not great timing for them, I will say. But I don't think with this offense right now that I expect them to be taking a massive step back. But he was big. I mean, his deep threat ability is pretty elite at this point.